Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of SuperCoach, mates. No, we haven't disappeared. We've just been on holidays, and I am still recovering from Scott Pendlebury's leather poisoning on Anzac Day in Game 431. So sorry to rub it into any Essendon supporters out there. As per normal, I am joined by Thomas. How are you going, Thomas? How have you been the past few weeks while we haven't recorded and fallen off the face of the earth?
Yeah, good to be back from holidays. Just getting back over the jet lag, and nice to see come back to Melbourne and St Kilda getting the 100-point win, which was something you don't see too often. But good to be back.
Yeah, so as per normal, what we're going to do is we're just going to go through our teams and have a look at some trade options, and we're also going to give you an update on how the SC Mates community team is going. So for that, I'm going to hand over to Thomas.
Yeah, obviously we've been away for 3 weeks or whatever whilst we've been overseas, but just it's been going all right. I mean, obviously these are the 2 weekly recaps from both sides. As we said, we're going to pretty much do a weekly comparison between my side and the SC Mates community side. You can pretty much figure out who's based off the team names. But SC Mates side, pretty consistent. Shot up into the top 10K pretty quickly as the season started. And yeah, hovering around the 6 or 7K mark for the last 2 weeks. Had a bit of a dip in performance this week with a 21.88. Probably suffered because we brought in Heaney last week and he obviously didn't play through injury. So that meant that we were 1 premium down throughout the weekend, which was a bit frustrating, but nonetheless, yeah, gone so far, so good. And my side, yeah, probably started the worst I've had all, my SuperCoach playing, or my time playing SuperCoach. Started around the 53,000 mark and, yeah, shot up now to the 14,000K mark, which is, yeah, can't complain with that 40,000 difference at the moment, and hopefully keep rising with some good scores so far. I guess the main disappointment I had with my side to start with initially was, I guess, didn't quite hit the early buys. Like I just kind of got unlucky with some of the scores, but yeah, if I can keep pumping up, that'd be nice and enter back in the top 10K. But yeah, so far so good, and 2,300, another solid score for me. That's bumped me back up into top 15K for now. So hopefully keep rising, which would be good. But moving on to, as we said, I'm going to try and do it a little bit differently now, just a bit easier to see the comparisons and the similarities in both sides. Is do a screenshot of both lines and see the similarities and differences. And I guess you can make a judgment based off your team, how you're tracking along and what players you might have. And just makes our life easier. We don't repeat the same players on the episode as well. But yeah, both defensive lines, I guess, have been pretty solid. I wouldn't be surprised with a lot of SuperCoach teams out there that the defensive lines have been pretty good for rookies because of the scoring power they possess in comparison to other lines. I think one thing you got to be careful of as the season progresses when you go into upgrades is that you don't want to just upgrade for the sake of upgrading and just really pay attention to, which lines are the weakest and which lines are the strongest rookies, because yeah, you want to maintain the rookies that have the strongest scoring on field until obviously have the full premium line. But yeah, Sinclair had probably his first poor game for the year. I mean, I say poor, but I guess half the St Kilda team went above 90. Yeah, probably. I think he got tagged or got tagged a little bit. I don't know who it was that tried to tag him, but he didn't probably have the same output as we would have liked to seen Sinclair have. But he has the role, and that's you're not going to see many poor scores at all from Sinclair this year. Jordan Clark, so to give you a reference, my team's the top and SMA's team is the bottom. Jordan Clark, he's a fucking frustrating own. I probably should have realised this when I owned him all of last year as well. I brought him in very late because I thought, hey, Luke Ryan doesn't look like he's making the side anytime soon. And yeah, Clark, I guess the benefit with him is you're probably not going to get too many shit floor scores, whereas yeah, these 78s really sting. He has the ability to pump out 140s, 150s, but on the flip side, get these 70s, 80s, and it seems more common than not this year, which has been frustrating. But yeah, I'm not going to trade him out anytime soon, I guess, just because I want to get my rookies off the field first. Dan Houston, he's one that I know a lot of super coaches traded out. just because they, saw that he wasn't getting particularly the ball that we hoped for. But I guess I've had him from the side in comparison to the SC Mates team down the bottom there because I like the role initially and I know what he's capable of doing. I think as an owner, you got to be aware that Houston is very capable of scoring these 60s and 70s as he did in Port. And he doesn't have the exact same role that he did in Port Adelaide, so we can't expect the same scores. The rookie's been really, really impressive. Farrow, Grill, and Lindsay. Lindsay did his best game for the season. I mean, against St Kilda, every half-back score as well, so that was to be expected. And the SC Mates team, Kitty Coleman, I guess he was one that we brought in as a cheaper defender. Look, he had probably his first poor score of the round, but he plays Essendon this weekend, so would expect bounce back. And then Josh Dacos, I guess, has been, in a similar vein to Clark. He's probably does have these poorer scores, but his ceiling is his floor is very consistent as well, just with the nature of his scoring. So, yeah, not trading him out anytime soon. But what are your thoughts on the defensive line, Nathan? And is any names that you can think of that might be staring at you as a potential trading option? I know Naz is a pretty popular trading option, having bounced from his best game this week against West Coast. But what are your thoughts on the back line and any players that you think need to be brought in as a premium option if people are wanting to trade in premiums?
I'll just get up the defenders actually and have a look real quick. So the highest scoring defender this year is actually Luke Parker, if you can believe it. He's a midfielder forward. So
Yeah.
I guess the top 6 defenders this year, there's probably a few surprises in here. So I guess we're, a third of the way through, and I do like to have a look at this. I'll just give everyone sort of an update here. So top 6 defenders, this is obviously just looking at total points, not average. So Luke Parker, Carl Wilkie, Jack Sinclair, Archie Roberts, Whitfield, and Nasiah are the top 6 defenders. So probably if you can get in any one of those 6, I would probably say go for it. And then there's probably a few guys just outside. So Ash, Dacos, and Clark. I know you've got Clark. Ideally, you'd probably want one of those top 6 guys. But yeah, I feel like that. Yeah, if you can sort of upgrade someone in the back line, but yeah, I sort of agree with what you said off the top that realistically, I think a lot of the rookies in the back line are still sort of going well. So I probably wouldn't be in any rush to upgrade those rookies just to the premiums. Just because I think they're still going quite well. So yeah, I think I'd be holding those rookies and just trying to eke out as much as you can because unfortunately fortunately the defensive rookies compared to the other positions I think are the least of our concerns. So if you haven't got other priorities, then obviously one of those top 6 defenders, great option. But if you've got other priorities, I think you can probably leave the back line for now. And just, I think they're all still going well. So I think the back line is probably the least of our concerns right now.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think definitely the backline defending rookies are pretty good. They're pretty much the most consistent, I'd say. Look, the when you look at the upgrade cycle, the defending premium is also the cheaper end of things. So I guess that's also something to keep your eye on. But I think traditionally speaking, defending premiums don't really deviate too much in price because you're either paying for your 100, 110 average premiums or ones that have spiked up from a 400k player. So you're not paying stupid amount of coin for them as well. But yeah, I guess we're lucky in the fact that we've got pretty consistent scoring DPPs and defending rookies that you can kind of hold off. But moving on to the midfield line. So my side, guess being pretty lucky with my side on the top screen there. I'm probably looking to bring in a midfield premium at this stage in Lockie Neal potentially as a trade option. Butters, Dacos in both sides, super, super impressive. I mean, Butters put O'Shea Mullen to shame in that tag game last week and looked really, really impressive. I think Butters he's in a contract year and looking to go strength for strength in that side and really making Port bouncing back from a pretty terrible start to the season. Bont, look, he had all sorts of injury concerns going into that game and still eked out a 135, which you can't complain. Sam Walsh, I mean, I guess the frustrating part is he probably hasn't hit as many ceiling scores as you want, but I mean, he's been super consistent, which has been also positive as well. I was tossing up between him and Jack Steele at that position, and both have been pretty impressive, I guess. Walsh playing for a disappointing Carlton, but nonetheless has been scoring pretty well. He's got a really impressive floor as well. Doesn't get, hasn't gone under 90, and I guess that's really impressive. Darcy Parish is one that I held one too many weeks and actually repaid the faith for holding him. Bar that 72 when Essendon got murdered by Carlton, he's been actually pretty impressive in the last month or so, and it's probably made my midfield less vulnerable, I guess, because it means that I don't have to worry too much about upgrading him. Having said that, I'm probably going to upgrade elsewhere to kind of make it a bit better in that midfield. And Dersman's one that I paid up for after his first price rise. So I paid $270 for him, and he's gone to $390 and looked really impressive. Almost looks like top 3 in the West Coast lineup each week. And yeah, he's definitely very, very talented, and you can see why he was 100% worth the 200K price tag to start with. He's, averaging accordingly, and it makes my team. I think that's made it a lot easier to swallow having these rookies on field, and you don't have to worry about these shit scores like in previous years. You've got really consistent rookies. Eliza Charters was one I got sucked into bringing in last week. Look, I had him last year and he was diabolical with his time on ground. It seemed like he got suckered into a low time on ground against Collingwood. And the frustrating thing is I traded out Bruin for him. I mean, it did get me Cosy Pickett, so I guess there's a little bit of caveat in that. But Sardis is one that I guess he probably saved his absolute poor score. He was looking for a sub 50 and then ended up getting a 61. It's not the absolute worst, but hopefully get a few more 70s and 80s from him. And in comparison to the SC Mates team, I guess the difference is you look at that SC Mates team and it runs very, very deep in the midfield, which I guess the benefit of that was because I know we didn't have all those, early injuries, like we didn't have English in the SC Mates team, so that made it a lot easier, for example. But I think the benefit of this team, when it goes large, it'll go big, because you got Heaney, Holmes, and Merritt straight off the bat as 3 big heavy hitters. Obviously, Holmes didn't score well on the weekend, and that probably cost us a 2,200 plus. But Merritt, I brought in this week off the fans' votes. Heaney obviously didn't play, but he's been really, really impressive. I mean, we brought him in after his 190, so I guess we missed all his good squads, but we all know what he's very, very capable of doing so, and hopefully makes a return this week for Sydney. But yeah, Grill and Murdoch on the bench is definitely 2 rookies that you can't complain. Obviously, got Jack Carroll there, who's probably solidified his side, spotted in this side a little bit more with an impressive performance against West Coast. But what are your thoughts on the midfield at the moment, Nathan? And are there any players that you're thinking you might bring in or you might want to trade out this week?
Well, I traded out Jack Cole last week, so I think I bought in Anderson. I guess
not the worst.
I guess it was frustrating watching Cole get 106. But you can't win them all, and I think personally, I think his time was up. So I guess sometimes you have to wear that one. I guess I also got lucky with Darcy Parish. Just had other priorities, and I kind of thought he might start off a bit slow anyway. So yeah, obviously, Essendon. Well, I mean, I think this is the 3rd time now they've lost by 10 goals this season. So hopefully that doesn't continue. But yeah, very down day on Anzac Day for the Essendon in general. So I also got Merritt last week. I thought he was quite good value. The 104, I think, probably was good. I think if you are going to upgrade, I don't think you can ever have enough premium midfielders in your lineup. So just like I did with the defenders, I'll quickly go through. So top 8 midfielders so far this year. So obviously, again, total points. So Bailey Smith, Zach Butters, Sheasel, although you can pick him as a forward, Bont, Merritt, Holmes, Parker, but again, we've already gone through him as a defender. LDU, and then if you want just the pure midfielders, Neil and Clayton Oliver are also in the top 8, and then just outside, Steele, Walsh, and Dacos are the next 3. So, there's quite a few good names in there. For me this week, I've gone a bit left field this week. I think Brisbane are going to get a hold of Essendon. I think Hugh McCluggage is going to have a big score. So, he's only sort of around that 5. He's 498. But if you take out that injury affected score of 13, I mean, look, he hasn't been great, but I think he's got to start at some stage. Otherwise, yeah, I'll probably revisit the trades that I've had if I decide to reverse them. But at this stage, I've got McCluggage in. Probably having a look at his scores. I was hoping he scored a bit higher than that, so perhaps I might need to revisit that McCluggage trade. But yeah, I think for me, if I don't go down the McCluggage path, I definitely think that it's probably going to be one of Horn Francis or someone like that, or Petrarca this week. But yeah, as I said, I don't think you can ever have too many midfielders. So if you've got a rookie in there and their time is up, just grab the best midfielder you can and move on with the rest of the season and just hope they don't go down injured.
Yeah, I guess the club trade is one that I think a lot of people are looking at as well with his reduced price. Josh Dunkley at sub 500k with the Brisbane ability for their scoring is very viable. I think one thing I'd be careful of is yes, you're paying for a discounted premium for someone like a Cluggage or a Dunkley who are so cheap, but you've also got to take into consideration the reason why they're so cheap as well. Yes, McCluggage is coming back from an injury, and we all know what he's very capable of. And I was very hot on him at the start of the season. But if you just look at his scores for a second, if I bring it up,
he's gone 13, 83, 50, and 85, I think.
Yeah, so hasn't even hit the 90 yet, which is the concerning part. But yes, he's got a break even of 163. So if he drops to 450 to 400, maybe worthwhile look at. But he hasn't lit the house on fire yet. So there's a big caveat, I think, in bringing in those injury return players. And there's as I said, there's a reason why that's the case. But I guess it's one way to finish your team easier. Those cheap premiums, and you can get away with it because they can bounce back very quickly. I think that's also the positive in that. But moving on to the ruck line, I mean, both teams have been really positive with the rucks. I guess the set and forget has really been great this season. McAndrew is basically both in the flex position, as you'll see in the next slide. But my side, Brody Grundy was one I was very hot on, and as a POD a little bit. Went 151, was lucky enough to get a VC on him as well. Last round, so took the 300 points to the bank. And Max Gawn looks like he's got a little bit of a niggle, it seems like. I mean, they brought in Max Heath for the last fortnight, and Heath is not, from obviously his ex-St Kilda perspective, he's not a player that you bring in for the sake of bringing in. But, you also don't think they're going to play a dual ruck system for the entire season with Heath and Gawn. I think that's just not how they run. So, didn't look like Gawn was at his best. I was at the Anzac Day Eve game, and look, he started portions forward, and Gawn definitely didn't look like his best. We all thought he was going to maul Samson Ryan apart, but from the centre bounce, they brought in Noah Bolter into the ruck, and that was a good way to combat Gawn in the fact that he's tall enough to leap up with him and be athletically mobile around the ground. So there's a bit of concern there that hopefully doesn't linger on for the next couple of weeks. But I mean, Gawn's heavily owned and is still very capable. Mitch Edwards, I guess, is a positive on the bench there. There's a bit of extra cash to bank. He obviously scored terribly on the weekend through some sort of injury affected game. But he's, I guess, once he maxes out in cash, he's one to trade out to a non-playing rookie and have that loophole, because I know my side in particular hasn't had too many players not playing, so I've missed out on a few VC scores. And in the SCMH team, we obviously went a different route from the start of the season from having Jackson, and he's been uber impressive as well. I guess the consideration you got to seriously look at the moment is that if you say, hypothetically speaking, you've got a Sherry Grundy Gorn English combo. If he does come back, you look at doing a 3-pronged ruck with having your flex as a ruck, because they're all very capable of scoring massive at the moment. And Jackson is probably one of those players that are very capable of scoring huge as well, because he doesn't have Sean Darcy at the moment to compete with. And if English doesn't play on is it tomorrow? No, sorry, Friday night. Yeah, when the teams get dropped, and if English doesn't get named, Jackson could go monster. That's for sure. And I guess, yeah, that's one consideration that you got to think of. What are your thoughts, Nathan, on having this 3-pronged attack? Or would you prefer having, a bit more flexibility through DPP in your flex position?
No, I think you've just got to try and get the highest score you can in the flex position. I think it's probably going to either be a ruckman or a midfielder. So just take your pick. If you can have one of Gorn, Grundy, or Cherry or Jackson, if you can have 2 of the 4, and then a third one as you flex, I think you're probably well ahead of everyone else, because I think based on what we've seen so far this year, the Rucks seem to be scoring the highest as per normal, because of their hitouts to advantage. So I know we did this a few weeks ago. I checked this, but just to give an update. So hitouts to advantage obviously are quite big. So the side with the most hitouts to advantage is actually Hawthorn, which might surprise a few people. But then we've got Sydney at second, so obviously that's the Brodie Grundy effect. Third is Fremantle, so obviously Luke Jackson. 4, Port Adelaide. Melbourne's 5th. The North Melbourne's 12th. But you're going to remember that I think 3 of those have been without Tristan Cherry. So I would expect that yearly average will spike as Tristan Cherry works his way back in. So, as I said, I think there's 4 clear standouts, which are Grundy, Gorn, Jackson, Cherry. If you can get 2 of the 4 as your starting rucks, and then the third one is the flex, if you choose to go down that path, I think that's probably the ideal route to go. It's probably what I will try and do. Not sure how I'm going to get there, because unfortunately I've still got Tom DeConning on the field, who is just a bit of a risk at the start of the year that unfortunately hasn't really paid off. So I got to work out how to get him up to one of the others. But the problem is finding the 300k to get him up there. So yeah, I think it was probably a mistake. Normally I never go down the mid-price ruckman, and this is probably why. So just pick one of those 4, pick 2 of the 4 or 3 of the 4 if you're going for flex, and just leave it there.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I think there's genuine merit in suggesting that, having the 3-pronged attack is very, very beneficial moving forward with how capable.
Sorry, if I could just butt in, I was just going to say the top 2 scoring ruckman for the year are Grundy and Gorn, and third's Jackson, and they're actually the 3 highest scores for SuperCoach this year. So, if you can get 2, as I said, if you can get Gorn, Grundy, Jackson as a 3-prong combo, I think you're well ahead of everyone else. If you go down the Cherry path, it's probably fine as well. But yeah, I think it's sort of, I guess, reflects my belief that I think the flex player should be a ruckman, just because of the fact that the top 3 are all ruckman. So yeah, no more to add there.
Yeah, no, fair enough. That's understandable. And lastly, moving on to our forward line. Let me just flick through here. Where's this going? Oh, here we go. All right, forward line. Yeah, I guess this is probably the line, in my opinion, that I think you probably need to fill out with premiums first. As contradictory as this sounds in previous years, I guess forward premiums have been the more just kind of not elusive. What's the word? Kind of up and down in their scoring, like roller coaster scoring, which I guess is true this year as well. By probably Pickett, Petrarca, Sheasel are the most three consistent forward premiums at this stage, and then you probably got your drop off to the next best. My side, I'm pretty happy with how my forward structure is. I got suckered into getting Rochelle, unfortunately, and it doesn't look like his scoring is going to improve anytime soon. Apparently, Dan Curtin's coming back from the showdown and could see Rochelle play a lot more time forward. As much as I think Adelaide should 100% be playing Rochelle and Rankin in that midfield a lot more consistently with how slow they look like without them. But that's an opinion for another day. And yeah, I guess I paid for another boost with that Pickett trade in, but I always was hoping for that 130 score, and I got it against Richmond, which is what I was hoping for. And I guess he's really impressive in the fact that I think that he's gone past the Shy Bolton kind of player who gets those odd spike scores when he does get thrown in the midfield and whatever. He just looks like a really consistent scoring player, and the way he played against Richmond was quite good. He just, start off the contest, and then when he got his opportunity to burst through the middle, he had it, and he's really impactful with those goals he scored on the weekend. And yeah, Petrarca I brought in pretty early on and didn't basically had him and then traded him out and then brought him in post injury and jumped on basically straight away, and he hasn't disappointed back-to-back tons. I think he's a must-have with the premiums that you have in the forward line. He's one that I'm considering basing off what people are voting for in the community side. But yeah, I guess the concern a little bit with the community side is trying to beef up that forward line as much as possible, because the Murphy-Reid trade probably hasn't worked out as expected. I mean, yes, he got a 71, which isn't amazing, but it isn't the worst either, and he's been pretty consistent otherwise. Sammy Laylaw has actually been pretty good as a POD pick from our SA mate side. He hasn't really gone under about 70, which is pretty good. He hasn't really spiked as well yet. He's playing West Coast, which could hopefully mean a good score by his stretch, but he's always one that I've seen on the stat sheet. He never really impresses or stands out per se, but he's been super consistent, which is what you want from that position there. And I guess the rookies on the field, Mateus Philippou, we had as an emergency for Marshall, so he came on and got that 98, which was good for holding him. And then Braden Cook been really, really impressive and has really locked that position off halfback. Having watched the game against St Kilda when Adelaide played us, I think he looks really composed on the ball and really effective with his kicking. So that kind of negates those really shit scores, I think, because of the position he plays and the ball that he actually gets off the half-back line or pushing into wing and how effective he can use it. I think is going to bode well for his scoring and kind of consistently score those 60s to 70s. But what are your thoughts on the forward line, Nathan? I guess there's a lot of those mid-pricing options, or not mid-prices, but sub 500k options to look at as potential trading options if you're looking for a budget. I know Horn Francis is a sub 500 option this week, which could be a very popular option. I know Chad Warner is another option around that 460k mark who hasn't, got the 120 yet, but has scored consistently between the 80 to 105 mark. What are your thoughts on those kind of cheaper options for the forward line?
Well, the forward line is probably actually one of the better performing lines in my side, if you can believe it. So I seem to have gone against a trend here where, I picked the mid-price ruckman and it's probably backfired, but I think a lot of the sort of the mid-price forwards that I picked have sort of paid off, I think, in a lot of ways. I've still got Flanders, still got Lawler. I started with Sam Lawler. I think we mentioned this on camera that I started with him. DeGoey had his highest score for the year. So yeah, I think for my forward line, it's probably the least of my concerns at the minute, just given who I've actually got down there. It'd obviously be great if Todd Marshall could come back in and play. So as I said, or as I've done with the other positions, just give everyone a quick update. So top 6 forwards across the first 7 games. So Sheasel, Pickett, Bolton, Tracy, Took Miller, and Justin McInerney. That name gives Thomas nightmares, Justin McInerney. And then the next 3 after that and Flanders. So I definitely think that Jason Horne-Francis is probably going to be on a lot of sides this week, and probably rightly so. I think the only thing with Horne-Francis is that I think you can perhaps get under his skin a little bit, and he can go 9-eyes. We saw against North Melbourne, which I correctly predicted that he would have a down game against North Melbourne. So, if you take out that 48 score in round 1, he's only had one other score below 85. So if he can just work through these mental battles that he has where, he seems to lose focus on the game and, he's more interested in, argy-bargy and stuff. But if he can actually just stay focused on, I think he is a good pick. But you might just have to be prepared that if you are going to go down that path and he does get attention, that he may have a quieter game. Otherwise, I think for mine, the fact that I've got Sheasel, Bolton, and Flanders means I've already got 3 of the top 9. So I think the Petrarca one is a very interesting one. So, despite only playing 5 games, he is still the highest averaging forward. With 124, but there's only actually 5 forwards that are averaging more than 100 across the first 6 weeks. So Petrarca, Sheasel, Pickett, Zach Bailey, and Bolton. So I definitely think it is the weakest of the lines. And for my sake, even though I'm quite happy with my forward line, I do agree with the sentiment that Thomas raised at the start when he said that it is probably the line you want to upgrade first, just because the mid prices and the rookies, you just don't know what you're going to get from them. Whereas I think I can be relied that that Pickett, he might be a bit inconsistent from time to time, but I think his low scores are probably going to be, around that sort of 80 to 90 mark, which is probably a lot better than, a Cook or, a Leo Lombard or someone like that. So, yeah, I think it's a very interesting time sort of around now. I think this is sort of where the contenders really break away from the chasing pack, is sort of, around this sort of, 4 to 6 weeks pre the buys. I think this is the make or break time for a lot of those high ranking teams. So, yeah, I think the forwards and the midfields are definitely the priority to upgrade. And yeah, I think it's basically just pick the best one you can.
Yeah, no, it's 100% right. I think, I think the biggest takeaway from this is, you got to just be really, it's team dependent, obviously, but you want to look at making sure that you're getting those poor rookie scores off the field. But before we wrap it up, just quickly looking at VC and C options and some trading options that we're personally going at. Just looking at the fixture here, it looks like there's not too many head-to-head matchups from the teams playing this weekend that scream pick me as VCC options. Wouldn't be surprised if Nick Dacos gets a tag. Maybe a Bontempelli if he looks okay. I mean, it showed that even though he was playing hand, but he's still very capable of scoring a 150 or 130. Butters probably in that showdown screams a VC option 100%. He looks like he's going to tear that showdown apart. Probably other than that, just looking at the lineups, probably, I don't know, if you have Tristan Sherry, he looks like a very safe option against Geelong's ruck. The Brisbane Lions mids, any one of them could go big against Essendon, that's for sure. Archie Roberts is, if you have him, he's one that could go bananas against any team with how much ball he gets down back. It's pretty insane, getting 40 touches a game. And then, I guess St Kilda, Carlton, I don't know, maybe a Sam Walsh. I don't think there's going to be too many big... maybe not. Yeah, Sam Walsh, Naz, Sinclair maybe from that game. Sydney, Melbourne, just got to be careful. I think Grundy and Gorno versing each other. So for my sake, I'm hoping that they both score hundreds and don't negate each other and both score 60s. But fingers crossed for that one. But yeah, trading options for my side. I'm probably, as I said, looking to beefing up that midfield. I'm probably gonna go for Patrick Rechko, which I think he's a Richmond rookie, 119k, has looked really, really impressive in his first two outings. He's a must trade, and I think regardless of where you stand, because of his break even and the money he's about to make, Rechko, I think, comes in and Lockie Neal at this stage. I don't want to use my last boost. I had the potential of getting Luke Jackson in, but I think for now I'm happy with getting maybe a Neal, and he looks really impressive. And then for the SC Mates team, I put a poll up on Twitter, so feel free to head over to our Twitter page or X page to vote on that. But at the moment, we're tossing up the forward premium. So, either using a boost, our second last boost for Petrarca or Jason Horne-Francis, and bringing in Rechko and Reedy. Reedy's that Rucks forward swing, I think, maybe look elsewhere if he doesn't get named. Maybe an Artie Jones as a replacement, because he looks like potentially playing again. But Reedy's got scored 108 for his second game, so he looks to make a little bit of cash and has that forward ruck flexibility. Or if we don't use a boost, get a Chad Warner as well, who looks like a solid forward option as well for a little bit of budget. What are your trade options at the moment, Nathan, leading into round 8?
Well, I've actually already reversed up McCluggage bring in, because I didn't realise how badly he was scoring. I actually thought he was scoring all right. So that was probably one of my bads that I didn't do further research in there. So yes, I definitely have brought in Patrick Rechko this week. I think he's going to... I mean, the fact that Richmond is so hit with injuries, I mean, can they really afford to drop someone that's performing well? Probably not. Even though I don't necessarily think he's in their best side. I mean, if they're a warm body and they're getting, they're fit, I don't think they can get dropped. Otherwise, yeah, I think for mine, I think it's either going to be a midfield or a forward premium for me this week. I would like it to be a midfield premium, and I'd like it to be one of those, one of those higher rated ones. So if I just have a look here, I think the one I'd like is Max Holmes. He sort of hasn't gone too far up. Although his break-even's 159, so I could probably wait a week on him. I think Bailey Smith, I think he's probably too much out of my price range. And then, obviously you've got Lockie Neal, who's, come basically back at his starting price. So, yeah, I think there's probably sort of the options I'm floating about. As for the vice captaincy, I actually think there's an abundance of options this week, to be honest, for vice captaincy and captaincy. So I wouldn't be putting it on Nick Dacos tomorrow night. I think he's going to get tagged. Houston, I think, is a bit of a left field one. I think the ball is going to be down a bit at that Collingwood defensive line, just with who they've got out. I feel like if the ball is down there a lot, if Houston can get the ball in his hands quite a fair bit, I think he might be a bit of a left field vice captaincy option. Friday night's probably where I'm looking, and if Tim English doesn't get named, it will definitely be on Luke Jackson for mine. Unfortunately, I probably won't find that out until I'm at the MCG tomorrow night. But yeah, I think if not, you could almost bring in Horne-Francis and chuck the vice captaincy on him straight away. I think he's a big game player, Horne-Francis. So, I wouldn't be too against the move of bringing in Horn Francis and then just chucking the VC on him straight away. The other one I don't mind is Christian Petrarca as a captaincy. So we know the Giants they don't like tagging, and the Suns need to get going. They've been disappointing the last few weeks. A lot of their key statistics have dropped away from where they were pre their bye. So I don't know if the bye has disrupted their momentum a little bit, but they're going to get firing. Perhaps they can do it against the Giants. Cherry, definitely an option. Any one of those Brisbane midfielders, I think that's actually why I linked towards the McCluggage option, because I think even though his break even was, I don't even know what was it. It was 160 something. I think I saw 163. I think he's more than capable of getting that against an Essendon midfield that let a 38-year-old, get 43 possessions. So, I think I think Brisbane are better than Collingwood. So, and I think McCluggage is probably at Nick Dacos levels. So, who knows how big Hugh can go on Saturday. But, I think there are a few good captain options, and there's a few, as I said, I think there's a few left of centre vice captaincy options that you perhaps could consider for this week.
Yeah, 100%. Anyway, that's all we got time for, and hopefully you get your trades right, and looks like there's a fair few solid matchups that you can sink your teeth into this weekend, and hopefully SuperCoach players treat you nicely. And we'll be back most likely next Wednesday or Thursday morning. This will be released for a round 8 review.